So welcome back, troops. Let's Tab 59. Something a bit different, as you can see straight away. No berry on, no backpack, and I'm in the garden. Why? Well, because I haven't done a gun-related video for some time. I've done lots of tabbing videos, talking about all sorts of subjects, visiting places. But this is one I've had on the back burner for a while, about guns I wanted to do. And because today I can't get out on the ground for whatever reason, I've got to stay here in the home. We've got something happening. I've got to be here. So I thought, right, I can use this opportunity to get a gun video out, and that's what we're going to do. So what I want to talk about, I'm going to talk about a little bit on UK gun law, not too much in depth because it's very, very complicated. You can get all the details online if you're in the UK and you want to get a gun license, whether it's a firearm certificate or a shotgun certificate. And also want to talk about air guns, which you can legally own in Wales and UK without any sort of, Wales and England, sorry, without any permits or licenses if they're under a certain power. In Scotland, it's a little bit different. Even for legal power air rifles that aren't classed as firearms, you have to have a permit for. And in Northern Ireland, I think there's some different rules over there as well. I'm not 100% about Northern Ireland. So this is really, I'm going to be talking about England and Wales, the legislation and law around air guns. And then talk a bit about why I think air guns are quite good, and also about shooting, where you can shoot, including in your back garden. Then I'll show you a little makeshift range and do a little bit of shooting and give a little review on one of the air weapons that I've got, air gun that I've got. I've got a few, but I want to do one on the specific air gun, a pistol. So UK gun laws. Now, unlike our friends over in the United States of America, we don't have the right to bear arms in this country. And we certainly don't have the right to use any firearms for self-defense, self-protection. Unless you live in Northern Ireland and you're under a specific category of threat, you can apply to the Police Service Northern Ireland and get special permission to carry a concealed firearm for personal protection. But it's a very, very small number of people. I remember when I was out there in the army on Northern Ireland tours, prison officers, for instance, they were allowed to carry a firearm, personal protection firearm. When they left shift, they'd draw their pistol from the prison armory, if you like, and drive home with it in their car and keep it in the house, etc. And they carry it wherever they go shopping, etc. when they're off duty, because they were under threat and they were getting murdered. Probably the same for the police, for the old Royal Ulster Constabulary, I'm imagining. The UDR, I don't know whether they did. I imagine some of them that were under threat were allowed to carry firearms at home. But anyway, it's a different subject. So apart from that, we can't over here in England and Wales and UK mainland use anything like that for self-defence. And you have to jump through a lot of hoops to gain a firearm certificate and or a shotgun certificate, as we call them here. So to get those, you've got to do a lot of medical stuff, a lot of referees and background checks. It can take a long, and even renewing it, security checks on your house, where you live. It's very, very complicated, a lot of hoops to jump through. And so therefore people don't always tend to want to go down that route because it's too complicated, but they want to do a bit of shooting. And that's where air guns come in, because here in the UK, certainly, like I say, England and Wales, when you get the age of 18, you can purchase and own as many air guns as you want, as long as they're within our legal limits. Now, we have a power limit on our air guns in the UK. For an air rifle, we measure all our air weapons in feet pounds. You can measure it in joules, but I like to use feet pounds. I don't know what the joules equivalent is. So for an air rifle in the UK to be legal without a firearm certificate, it must be under 12 foot-pounds of power, energy. For an air pistol, it has to be under 6 foot-pounds, so half of what a rifle is. Apart from that, that's it. You can have them. You can have sound moderators fitted, scopes, laser lights, all sorts of bits and pieces, and you can hold as much air gun ammunition, pellet ammunition as you like. So that's why it's quite a good option for us in the UK to have them. Now, there's a few exceptions. If you have been to prison in the UK for between 3 months sentence and 3 years, then when you come out, when your 3 years is finished, or up to 3 years in prison is finished and you're free again, you have to wait 5 years from the date of your release before you can even handle an air rifle or an air gun. So if you get caught, you're in the poo. If you've had a longer sentence than that, then you're banned for life from owning or using air guns in the UK. So if you've had longer prison sentence than 3 years, you're banned for life. You can appeal it through the courts and you may get it granted. It depends on what you've done wrong, to be honest. So there you go. It's a little bit about that. Now, where can you fire them and what can you shoot? Well, you can fire your air guns on any land that you own or that you've got the owner's permission to use. So if you know a local farmer that's got a bit of land and he wants you to knock rabbits over or do a bit of vermin shooting with rats or whatever, squirrels, stuff like that, pigeons, rooks, you can shoot that as long as he's given you permission. If it's your land, i.e. it's your back garden, then yeah, you can fire your air weapons, air guns in your back garden. But there's a few things that we have to take into consideration. Let's say, for instance, then, we're talking now about shooting in your back garden, in your yard. The first thing is you need a bit of space, obviously, and that's just being sensible. I mean, if you've got enough ground to have like a 25-metre range from where you're going to shoot from to your target area, 25 metres is great for air rifle. That's a good optimum distance, 25 metres. If you're not, you can still go down to 10 metres. I'm going to be shooting a little 10-metre range today that I've made up because I'll be using pistol. Now, here's the thing. If, when you're shooting on any land you've got permission, but certainly in your back garden, if your pellets stray over your boundary into public land or into a neighbour's garden, you're breaking the law. And that's even if it's a ricochet, that famous Irish sniper ricochet. So if you fire at your target and you've got a terrible backstop or you get stoned or something, it ricochets over your boundary, technically you're breaking the law. So you've got to bear that in mind. The second one you've got to bear in mind is that if there's a road, and I've got a road just over here, if you've got a road near your garden, where you're shooting at, where you're shooting from, you must be 50 foot away from the centre of that carriageway. Not that you're going to fire into there, but just firing into your own backstop. You can't discharge your firearm, your air gun, within 50 feet of the centre of that carriageway. I've measured mine and I'm cool. I'm over 50 feet, so I'm fine. There's traffic going up and down, you might hear, but I'm more than 50 feet from the centre of that carriageway. Now, it's a good idea if you're going to shoot in your back garden that once you've set your little range up and you've made sure you've got a good backstop and you're 50 feet from the road, etc., you go and talk to your neighbours, certainly any close neighbours. You don't have to, but I think it's good practice to do that because you might not know your neighbour very well, you might not get on with your neighbours or whatever, but if you start shooting away in the back garden with your air pistol, or air rifle, quite legally, they look over the fence or out the bedroom window and see you blatting away with something, they might get a bit twitchy and pick the phone up and ring the police, for instance. You're going to get a visit, then you're going to answer questions, and that could get awkward. So be a bit considerate, talk to your neighbours. Obviously make sure you've got no pets running around in your garden and no children, just all the normal common sense safety things. Now, setting up a range. So a little look at what I've done, and I'll talk through it a little bit. So I've measured out here where this table is, where I've got the air pistol. From this table down to this target over here is 10 metres. 10 metres, and you can see behind that target there, there's a good backstop of soil and garden waste. And it's about 1 metre deep, about a metre's worth of packed soil and grass trimmings. It's packed right down. There's no way the air guns I'm using today are going to go through that. Behind that is a block of wood, and then there's concrete gravel boards and fence panelling. So it's quite thick, and I'm confident, I know in fact, that nothing is going to get through there and cause any problems to my neighbour. So that's important. So I think air gunning is great if you don't want to travel out to a club, you can't afford to, there's not a club nearby, they're quite expensive to join. If you've got a bit of space in your garden, it's a cheap little hobby. You can plink at tin cans, you can put paper targets up and just practice your shooting. And it's once you've bought your air gun, whether it's a rifle or pistol, the ammunition's fairly cheap. You buy tins of 500, I think I got here. 500 in a tin, it cost me about a tenner. Little different pellets out there, find what's right for you. So it's a cheap hobby and it can be a bit of fun, and it's not going to have to go and ask permission to shoot on someone's land. Now, as far as shooting animals in your back garden, i.e. pests, dodgy area, Yes, if you've got rats, I mean, I don't have rats, I have mice actually, but the cats get them. If you've got rats at the bottom of your garden, as long as you follow the rules and you're not letting your pellets fire over into someone else's land, etc., you're safe and sensible. Yeah, you can shoot your rats. You can shoot grey squirrels. Now, when you start to shoot things like wood pigeon and crows, it gets a little bit of a grey area, because you're talking then about what's on a general license. So you need to look all that stuff up. Certainly with an air pistol, you can shoot vermin, you can shoot rats and things. I've never done that. I've never used an air pistol on any animal, vermin, etc., because I just don't think they're quite powerful enough. You can kill them without a doubt, but I don't think it's fair. If I was going to do rat shooting, which I've done on a property I used to live in before, I shot rats in the back garden because we had quite a lot of them on the bird feeders, etc. But I used an air rifle for that to make sure I get, even though it's vermin, you want to kill him, you want to kill it clean. So I don't recommend that. So be careful what you shoot in your back garden if you're going to shoot vermin. Just be careful and check the law out. Go online. Look at someone like BASC, the British Association of Shooting and Conservation. They've got a great website, loads of information on there. Maybe I'll put a link in the description of this video. Loads of information on there, and there's government websites about what you can do and what you can't. Make sure you know what you're doing and you stick to the rules and use your common sense. So now what I'm going to do is show you an air pistol and do a little bit of a review on it and show you what it can do, and we'll just see how that goes. So this then is a Weihrauch, a great German manufacturer, Hermann Weihrauch HW45. It's loosely modelled, I suppose, on the old Colt 45 1911 or something like that. Obviously it's a lot bigger than a Colt 45, but that's loosely what it's modelled on. This one that I've had this about 10 years, and fantastic gun. Not cheap. I don't know, I think they're currently being sold for around 399 UK pounds. I paid a bit less than that, obviously 10 years ago, and there's been, on the new version of this, there's a few modifications that are different to this. This is an older model, but you can pick these ones up online second hand for anything from £100 up to £250. It depends on the condition it's in. It's a Springer, so therefore there's going to be wear and tear on the spring at times. That's something you need to be aware of if you're buying second hand. So, sighting. It's got a little glow sight on the front there, which is fixed. You can't do anything to adjust that. It does show up quite well in light. And at the rear here, really good sights. You can adjust them. And again, it's got the high-vis rear sight aperture. You can notice at the back here that there's a hammer just here. And that's a falsity, really. But what it does, when you pull the hammer back, it releases the top cover. And that's the lever for cocking the weapon. I'll show you that in a minute. It's got a fantastic adjustable two-stage trigger, and it's got a safety catch on both sides, which is manual, which is really cool. On this side, on the left-hand side, you can see when I flick it forward to fire, you can see the red dot there to say that it's on fire. The way I remember it on these sort of firearms with the safety catch, if it's back towards you, it's safe. If you push it forwards towards the target, it's going to fire. So that's quite handy. It's really easy to get to because it's by the thumb. It's obviously ambidextrous, left or right, doesn't matter. It's got a walnut grips, really well checkered walnut grips here. Very well manufactured. It's quite weighty. It's about 1.15 kilograms. So, charging it, cocking it, loading it. So say you pull the hammer back, which then flicks this top cover up. Now the neat thing with the HW45 is it's got two power settings. If I cock it to 90 degrees like this, to there, that gives me half its power. Now the full power of this is about 5 pounds, 5 foot pounds. The legal limit being 6. This is about 5 or just over 5, 5.5 maybe. When you cock it halfway, you get about 2, just over 2 foot-pounds. Now, the advantage of that is that if you're firing in the back garden, you're not going to use too much power. You can still fire at 10 metres, and I can show you what it does on half power at 10 metres. Also, the good thing about using half power is that it's more accurate. There's less recoil. Now, that sounds stupid saying there's recoil from an air pistol, But when it's a Springer, you've got this big spring and piston moving forward when you squeeze the trigger, and that does cause a bit of recoil, which, believe it or not, will affect the accuracy. So Springers tend to be less accurate than, say, compressed air PCP air guns. So anyway, halfway gives you half power. And then you'll notice here, hopefully you can see, this is the breech of the barrel, if you like. That's the actual barrel of the pistol running down there. And that's where you load the pellet. So you load the pellet directly into there. It just sits neatly into there. You push it in, and obviously all you've got to do then is snap the cover down, make sure the safety catch is on. And that's the air pistol loaded. It's on half power. Just have a little go at the old hunt's head. Oh. So you can see, you get a little bit of kick, you get a little bit of noise, and sometimes you get a bit of diesel, and I've got some oil in there. Really good little air pistol, as I say, accurate. Now, talking of accuracy, let's just have a look and see how I done on my little target. So what I did was I put up a Hun's head down there at 10 meters, and before I come on camera, I fired 5 supported rounds from this table at 10 meters at the Hun's head. Well, let's go and have a look and see how bad I am. To point out, I've never been a good pistol shot ever. So 10 meters, 5 rounds at the old Hun's head. So you can see there that I need a little, didn't bring my pencil with me. Use a bit of this rather than point a big fat finger. So we've got one here that I've pulled to the right, one there, one there. I'm guessing there's 2 through there because it's a great big hole. So 4 rounds there and 1 there. That's not too bad with open sights for an old git at 10 meters. As you can see, I just made up a little target. There's the backstop. This backstop behind the target here, it goes all the way back up there. It's well over a meter thick. And that's what you need. You need a decent backstop. Things to avoid on your backstop, you don't want to be using things like marine ply. You don't want to go and get a big piece of wooden board and stick it in the ground and then pin your targets to that, because air rifles and pistols, legal limit ones, do have a tendency to ricochet back at you off of things like marine ply and wood. So I know you might think it's softwood, except you're going to bury into it. Yes, they do something, but there's a high chance you'll get a ricochet. Other things you don't want metal. I've got a metal shed over here. The last thing I want to do is fire against this, because again, you're going to get a ricochet off of that. Stone, concrete, that's going to give you a ricochet, and you don't need to, you really don't want that. So you want a nice, like I say, compact soil or sand, something soft but thick, so that it can slow the pellet down rather than let it go wanging through to your neighbour and you break the law. So, little look at air gunning and air guns. I might do some more. I mean, my firearms ones don't seem to do very well, but I didn't have much choice today of doing a tab video, so I had to do this. So that's it. Till next time, troops. If you're new to my channel, that's before I go, if you're new to my channel, you haven't subscribed, please consider it. I'm not saying do it, I'm saying consider it. Till next time, troops, stay safe, especially if you're using firearms and air guns. Well, let's tab.